Welcome back on part 2 of this video on making this jewelry box. If you missed part 1, there's a link in the address in the show notes below. There's also a link at the end of this video. Okay, still got a little bit of a divot. When you have a little divot, you want to come up under it, come up under it, cross, down, up under it, cross. Let me show you. Come up under it. Come up a little bit, cross, back, down, up, cross, back, down. And you'll get rid of that little bump. I said divot, I meant a little bump. Okay, that's looking good. Now let's come back on the next one. Cove right here. Similar to before, I need to make sure that when I put the tray in there, it'll clear those, and I think I've got that. Just spot check that. I think we'd already spot checked it. Yeah, so that fits just fine. Okay, I think I'm ready to sand this. We'll do some lubricant sanding. Before I do that, I'm going to put on some sanding sealer before I sand. I think any lacquer thinner is going to work, or sanding sealer rather, is going to work fine. I just prefer this Mylan's, and you can get it from most of your wood turning vendors. You can also get it through, I believe you can get this through on Amazon, through my Amazon shop. And as always, I have a link to that in the underneath the video description. So check that out. Alright, it's time to part off the bottom now. Anchor the tool, ride the bevel. Okay, I think discretion is a better part of valor. Let's go ahead and use that saw. Get the tool rest out of the way so as not to damage the saw. There we go. And it looks fairly clean, but we'll dress that up. Now, how will we dress this up? Well, we're actually just going to make a little bit of a jam chuck right there, and then we're going to finish taping it to hold it. So let's do that. We're just going to not going to go very deep. Tiny little taper. Close. Okay, I put the bottom onto the jam chuck made out of the scrap. I've used a little painter's tape to hold it, and notice we do wrap it where it's the leftover edge is coming toward us so it doesn't come apart. And we're going to use that just enough to skim the bottom, get it concave using a sharp spindle gouge. That tape didn't want to hold. Let's try some masking tape over top of that. Yes. That should do the trick. except for that button that's a little bit more there. Let's drop the tool rest just a little bit. Normally, for end grain like this, I would use a scraper, a negative rake scraper, but with the way this tends to tear out, I don't want to do that. However, I may use my my Viceroy tool, because this doesn't scrape, this cuts. Okay, and that's flat enough. Now we're going to sand that. One way to get this flat, I think I've shown you this tip before, but let me show it to you again. You're going to use a board like this with some MDF and turn it at a slow speed and use both hands, and you can get that surface flat pretty quick. You know how I like to embellish the bottom, so let's go ahead and take these D-Way tools, beading tools, and we're just going to put a few little beads there. Just put one bead. And adds a nice little embellishment detail. Okay, we finished with the bottom. Let's go ahead and take that tape off. And we'll set this aside. All we got to do is put our name on it and add some finish. Now the next thing we got to do is we've got to put on a, we've got to finish the top. Now the lid, how are we going to do that? Well, we've got this tenon, so we're going to work on the underside. We're going to save this for later. We're going to use it as a jam chuck to deal with the finishing the other side of the lid. But first, let's get the inside. So we've got to make that recess here that'll fit that middle part. Denver Lewis asked the question about, well, how do you know what the sequence is and how do you keep up with it? And turning a box, it's a good question, Denver, and thanks for that question. A lot of it depends on what you're working on. On a box, it's important that you understand the sequence before you get into it and you write it down, because you've got to be able to get back to finishing some of these things. I think the first thing we're going to do is work on that recess. So let's, again, like last time, we're going to come in at just under 1/8 of an inch. Back this out just a little bit, and we're only going to go down just a tiny little bit. And again, we're going to trial fit it a couple of times. Now we're getting just a little bit of run out, so let's take our chuck. When you get some run out like that, don't despair. Sometimes all you really need to do is just hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you very much. Turn the piece in the chuck and tighten it up again. And that is much improved. Okay, so we're going to come in, get speed up close to 1,000. Going to get it just. Let's just double check how thick this is, how wide it is, and it's right at 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to come under just hair under by closing one eye and looking at it. And again, we don't need a snug fit. We just want a comfortable fit. There. That's a pretty good jam fit there. I don't think I'm going to need any tape. And I'll be able to sand these two edges as well. But I think I'm going to put a little piece of tape on it just in case. Okay. Now this tray is mostly going to sit in the bowl inside that bottom, but occasionally it'll come out on the table, so we do want it to be flat. Got a little bit of a bump there. Okay, and let's just take our ruler, and that's pretty flat. I think sanding will take care of it. Now that we've finished with the bottom of the tray, we're going to set that aside. And now we're going to hollow the inside of that lid to reduce the weight, give it a little more room in case something's sticking out. So let's degrain. Got quite a bit of thickness there. Yeah, still getting quite a bit of tear out. Slow the feed rate down, take a lighter cut. Actually, what we're going to do, we're going to put a little sanding sealer on here to stiffen up the fibers. I've been using this #1 cutter for a while, and similar to other carbide, it fastens on with a little, in this case, a torque screw, and you just clean it out with a paper clip or something small like that. Make sure that you don't have any embedded sawdust that'll interfere with the torque screw, and then just spin it just a little ways. To get to a sharper side, and it'll last a long time. Now I've got the best possible edge to clean this up. I've hardened the fibers a little bit with some sanding sealer. So let's see if we can't get a little less tear out with this punky wood. This wood is too punky for me to do any type of serious texture. I will put some little beads on my fish, getting it hollowed and sanded. And I think that's probably as thin as I need to go. Let's go ahead and sand it up. Sand it up, and then we'll get ready to jam chuck it to clean up the top. And like we did with the bottom, I would love to embellish this with something a little fancier, some other texturing tool, but because of the softness of this wood, I think we're just going to have to live with maybe a couple of beads, and that'll still look nice. So we're going to come in here with a smaller bead. Rock it back and forth. I think those beads add a lot. Okay, now we're going to reverse. We're going to jam chuck this. Take this loose. Now we're going to put that other blank that we used to jam chuck the base with, and we're going to use that as a jam chuck for this. Take down. So I got a dampened cloth, and we're just going to wet these fibers, and they'll swell and hopefully give us a little tighter fit. And what I'm going to do is just clean up this a little bit. I'm going to take this handle and dovetail it a little bit just to make it easier to grab, and then we're going to remove just a little bit off the top. And I'm just going to use some of this sanding butter. Anything that, even spritzing it with water can help, but any type of wax can help stiffen the fibers. Change this profile to a little flatter. Okay, that's looking pretty flat. It's looking pretty clean, actually. I'm happy with that. Now I've got a concave in here just a little bit. This is a little harder. The live center that came with this, I'll put this back in a minute, is not like most of the ones that come with mini lathes. It's hard to get in there. So I'm going to change it out for a different one. I'm just going to use this 60-degree cone, and I'll be able to get in there a little bit closer. Sand this first so it doesn't interfere with the tape, doesn't get in the way. So let me just sand that and we'll come back. So I'm going to switch to a detail gouge. Before I do need to probably put a little tape on here. So let's put a little tape on there. If I fasten my banjo and my tailstock more often, I'd be better off. I've got to sand it. Now, I've got a bit of a divot here that I'm not sure what to deal with, how to deal with it. I'm thinking I'm going to flatten this out and maybe drill a tiny little hole and put a little piece of scrap of wood in it of some sort. All I got to do is put a little glue in there. Just a reminder, check out the links below in the description where I usually have links to my Amazon shop, products I used in the video, and my website. If you had any particular challenges with this project, leave those in the comments below. Y'all stay safe. Come on back here.